There it is. Alrighty, so this is discussion number 5 for our, what they call it, co-mentorship group. You want to start by uh,
We had chit chatted earlier in the week about what to choose, and we chose item A2, which is using the questions on Likert scales below. Assess the leadership or perhaps the customer service of one another in your triumvirate. And then item A4, using the questions and Likert scales below, assess the leadership or perhaps the customer service of a coworker, but also provide context and explanations for your co-mentors as they would not know these people. So I'm thinking maybe we start with A4, since Emily is going to be a little bit late joining in. That way she can participate and give her info on A2.
that sounds good.
That work?
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, so sorry, I'm going to go over the questions. So I'll start. The person I chose, and I think I want to say I might have chosen him on one of our first discussion boards. I think that was this class. I chose a gentleman I work with by the name of George Mendoza. He was, when I started here, he was the rental manager. He moved up to the operations manager. Now he's taken a step back, but he's still one of those people that just is a leader, and everybody goes to him for everything, even though he's not necessarily the one that makes the final decisions anymore. And for him, I did really do the points thing. I know you and I were talking about that, kind of doing. So real quick, I'm just going to read over like the different ones. So sets a personal example of what he or she expects of others, seeks out challenging opportunities that test his or her own skills and abilities. So for those first two, I'll join those two together because they're actually kind of similar. And one of the reasons why I chose George is he does set an example. He has no problem being the first one in, last one out. He's not going to ask anybody else to do his work. I came in a little bit early this morning and, opened the door. I didn't see his car out there. And I opened the door and noticed that the alarm was off for our section of the building. So when I walked in, he scared me because I didn't realize he was here. So that it's just those kind of things. I'll get emails from him at 7:30 at night because he's still sitting at his desk working. And when I do have questions, because I do run to him because he seems to know it all, he's the first person to, if he doesn't know it, or if he wants, if he thinks, no, you should know it, he'll sit there and explain it to me. He's not just going to give me the answer. He's going to sit there. We'll walk outside. We'll grab a piece of equipment. He'll show me how to put it all together and make it work. So I gave him big props and gave him 10 on both of those because of that, because that's the person he is. And he doesn't do it. It's not like, oh, he and I are besties and he does it for me. I watch him do it with every employee. If they say, oh, this isn't working well, he's like, okay, well, let's sit down and figure it out. He's willing to challenge himself and look at better ways of doing stuff. He's he'll sit down and listen to other people. Where I did give him a lower score, and I'm not even sure if you would even consider that. I just put praises people for a job well done. He's not one of those guys who's going to go around patting you on the back every 5 minutes and telling you that you did a great job. You did a great job with him. I mean, I can't really explain how that is, but he doesn't, he shows it. He shows his appreciation, but he's not going to be the one sending you an email. He's going to be the one that gives you a hard time and jokes with you, not, hey, thank you for staying late or anything. He will, in groups and things like that, but individually, he doesn't seem to do that much. So I gave him a little bit of a lower score on that, just for that. I mean, and like I said, it's not like I've ever felt like he doesn't appreciate anything that I do or anything that the guys do. He's just not a talker when it comes to things like that. Otherwise, it's mostly, I'd say, anywhere 8 and above, mostly probably 9s and 10s. On everything else, the active listening is a big thing for me, and part of that is I think because I'm bad too when it comes to it. We all do it nowadays. We all grab our phone and we're answering emails or shooting texts while we're listening to somebody. So we're not truly active listening. And I try to get better about that and set my phone down and not grab it and not touch it. And and really focus on what that person is saying to me. And he does a good job of that. You know, as much as he's got going on, he will close his door. You can walk in his office and he's not going to, you can hear his emails dinging. So, you know, he's getting work, he's getting calls, the phone will ring. He'll sit there and listen to you, and he'll ask you questions and, you know, point out things. He's really good about that. So, I thought that was a great example of, you know, something that we should all do kind of everywhere. I've tried that also. When I go out to restaurants, I try really hard not to grab my phone and look at things when I hear them coming in and stuff like that. During the business day, that's a little harder, but definitely, you know, on the weekend or after work, I really try to focus and be, you know, whoever I'm with, whether that's family or friends or whatnot, give them my time and my ear.
Yeah, I really like that. Active listening, like you said, it's super hard to get in this day and age.
Absolutely.
I like too many screens, too many things happening, emails so fast, texting so fast that we feel like we can, I don't know, manage like 10 different modes of communication at the time. And especially with leadership. And it sounds like his name was George, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like George, there's a part in our book, I apologize, don't know where, but it was basically saying stop telling people, start asking questions. And when you said, like, he sits down with me, he asks questions, that to me is something that a leader should always do. They should ask questions about their subordinates and about who is supervised by them and see what's going on from their point of view, because the best decisions that you can make are made from the point of view of everyone around you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how that's kind of changed over the years. Like, I remember back in school, there would be teachers that would, you know, you'd sit down to ask them a question about something. And in your mind, you know, not in junior high or high school, all you wanted was the answer. Just give me the answer. And they would give you roundabout answers and, you know, tell you to look it up here or ask you questions on what you thought. And I'm just like, no, I don't care what I think. I
I
want an
just
A
want
in
an
your class. That's
A.
what I want.
Yeah, and
So
now as
it is
adults,
funny
all we
that,
want to do is talk about how we think or what we feel, right?
right? Yeah. I don't care how I feel. All I want is for you to handle this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those kind of things do change.
Mhm.
um, he does. Let's see. I'm just going over him real quick. He ensures that people grow in their jobs by learning new skills and developing. That kind of goes with everything I've been saying about, you know, several times he's been, well, let's go out and take a look when I've asked him about equipment. Come on. And he drags me out in the warehouse and shows me how it works and what's going on with it. So I
So
appreciate that because I don't know. I've never been on set, so I don't know how everything works. So it's good to know that kind of stuff.
yeah, it's about being approachable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Over here.
um, and
Yeah.
then the other one would be ask for feedback on his or her actions affect other people's performance. I can't say he's ever asked. Like, I don't recall ever listening, you know, hearing him say, you know, what do you think or how have I done or anything like that. But he'll take criticism. So I kind of gave him a little bit of a more there just because of the fact that I can go in and say, you know, well, you haven't been listening, or, you know, you don't communicate, or you haven't been replying to emails because you've been so busy. So he does take criticism, or you can go in and tell him how you feel or why you feel this way, and he will sit down, like I said, actively listen and discuss it with you. So he may not actively go out and search for the feedback. He has no problem taking it, and he does have an open thing about him where people have no problem walking in and telling him things. So he's one of the few people that I don't hear a lot of people talking about behind their backs. You
Yeah.
know, you always have
Rare
it
in an
afterwards.
office
Yeah,
environment.
yeah, exactly. So, and that's one of the few people, when if they're talking about him, they're usually saying how great he is, not how
That's
bad he
good.
is or that he's not doing this. And I think the few times that somebody has said something like that, everybody else has been like, well, did you tell him? And he's like, no. Yeah, go tell him. Oh, okay. Like, they didn't think about it because they think, oh, he's a manager. You don't talk to a manager that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to go survey by survey? So I'll do the A through K now, and then we can move on to doing the Likert scale for both of them.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I chose to review my supervisor, Cindy. She's wonderful. She's absolutely wonderful in many, many ways. So I would say A, sets a personal example. She absolutely does. She lives by her values. B, she seeks out challenging opportunities. Yes, definitely. She's always searching for a new way to help her business. Now, we can go down the row and keep going down the row, and she's probably going to keep getting like 8, 9, 10. Yeah. It's wonderful, except when we come to actively listens to diverse points of view. When we get there, she's wonderful if you're on the same page with her. And when you're on the same page with her, you're getting so much done. She has great ideas. She has innovations. She has innovations for how we're going to get this done and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as you come to a disagreement, then I feel like these walls just sort of come down. So I don't see it a lot with me because honestly, we hardly ever disagree. But with other, she definitely comes into some like disagreements with other positions or other departments within the organization.
Because it's amazing sometimes how people shut down like that.
Yeah.
I had a boss that used to do the same thing. Everything was great and everybody got along. The second somebody didn't do, basically it was his way or the highway. And the second you weren't on board with whatever he wanted to do, he just became a total butthole. You're just like, oh my God.
Like Kuz's and Posner say, enable other people to act, right? Mm-hmm. So you enable them by deeply listening to them. You enable them by making joint projects and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like she is very enabling for our team. But when it comes to working in tandem with other departments, it's like hard no. Like, this is what content wants. We don't care what product wants. This is our goal. Meet our goal. We're not moving for you. And it can cause a lot of strife. But we keep going down the list. And it's great. She does ask for feedback from her subordinates, but after seeing that sort of flip that she can do, I find myself a little bit unnerved about giving her feedback. Like, hey, why don't you listen to product more? And for me to do that, I would feel that I'm pitting myself against her, like the other departments do. So that to me is like not good leadership communication. You should feel free to be able to speak to your subordinate and your supervisor freely and openly and trust that, quoting Guzman's imposter, but trust that one another can be and can be constructive with everything.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was thinking when you said that. I was like, well, yeah, but who's going to be honest with her if you know that her reaction is to turn away and not be on your side? You're not going to go, well, you've been kind of cranky lately, or like it's hard to be open. But I think that goes for personal relationships as well. I think we've talked about this before, where it's not worth the fight. So you kind of keep your mouth shut on certain things just because it doesn't bug you enough that it needs to be said, and why piss off the other person so now they're mad at you
for
something small that you pick your battles.
Yep, exactly. Oh, and I can just keep going on. So ensures that people grow in their jobs by learning new skills and developing themselves. Totally. Like she has advocated for me to go to several expensive industry conferences, and I've attended those, and I feel that she really wants me to grow in my position, which is inspiring. So she definitely does that, and she gives a lot of support to me. I don't see her giving a lot of support to her other subordinates, mostly because there's only one other one, and I don't see their conversations with each other. We don't really meet 3-on-3 most of the time. So she probably does. Yeah. I just can't honestly say she does for everyone.
And does she know? And does she know about your plans that you want to leave and do other things? And
that is something that I'm really struggling with telling her, because if I knew that I could just keep working with her for the rest of my career, then I would actually think about staying. Like, she's that awesome. Like, she's really a wonderful lady. But I can't guarantee that I'm going to work with her for the rest of my career. Of course I'm not. She's about 10 years, 15 years away from retiring, maybe less, like 10 years. So I'm going to be working way longer than that. But she is investing a lot in me, which makes me sad to be in a couple months, like, hey, I'm in this waiting period to get into school, but when I do get in, I'm going to leave. It's a tough thing.
That's a hard thing to be put, a hard situation to be put in. That's why when you said how much you do, enjoy working with her and that she is putting the time in on you, I mean, that makes it hard because you don't want to disappoint. But you still got to do your thing. There's no way around it. Everybody has to do their thing.
Yeah, I catch myself. By the time, I think a lot during this program, especially during the last 6 months of when I'm like this close to graduating, I've had a lot of conversations with my partner about, like, should I actually try to leave this job? Should I actually try to just do a complete 180 and start in a new direction and change my entire life? Should I do this? But I love my job in some ways, but I hate it in others. And Cindy, working with her, is so great, and I love the team. But you can't stay for a person, because you don't know when they're going to move on.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but you want to be happy, as enjoyable as it is working there, obviously, because I don't think you'd be staying if it wasn't. There is something, there's a passion and something that you want to do, and not everybody has that opportunity. And if you have somebody that supports you and is willing to walk that journey with you, oh my God, I would be all over that. That's that's a once in a lifetime chance. That's kind of how I went back to school. Like, when I dropped out of school the first time, it was, I got married and we just didn't have time and blah, blah, blah. And then after my divorce, I was like, you know what? I gave up school for all the wrong reasons and I need to go back. And it took me, years later. And then I was like, I'm going to go back. And my boyfriend now was like, so go back and get it done. What are you waiting for? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, no, there's so many little things we think of that I feel really hobble us. Like, there's reason A that I can't go back to school, or reason B that I can't get into nursing school, and then you just step back and you take a second and you get opinions of those who love and care for you, and you realize, oh, this is just like me putting blockades in front of my progress. Like, they don't exist. Make it harder than it is. Just do it.
Well, that's what we do as humans, right?
Absolutely. Especially, I found it a lot in women. There's a lot of self-doubt, and a lot of outsider syndrome. I don't know if I learned about it a little bit in the OGL program, but it's when women have trouble basically feeling accepted and like they should be there in the workplace. So if you're saying sit at the table, make your opinion known, be a leader, it's that the outsider syndrome sort of stops us from doing that. And I see it a lot in women and women leaders. They just kind of have that hesitation because it's self-doubt or something that's sort of, I think, been hammered into us by society.
Yeah. Well, there's that TED Talk where, oh my God, what is her name? Where she talks about that.
The 5 sitting at the table. Yeah. So I like and dislike her. She makes some good opinions, but I think some good points, but I think she sort of goes right over the fact that it's not just the women that have to do things differently.
Yeah, no. Everybody needs, but she brings up a lot of that self-doubt. Cheryl Feinberg, something like that.
I think I listened to that for a class.
Yeah, I think I did too. And the one story that got me was she was talking about her and her best friend and her either best friend's brother or her brother were in the same class, and her friend was studying and was like, I don't think I did well, and she's like, oh, I think I failed it, and he was like, oh, I nailed it, like the confidence thing. Yeah, that's what you were saying. The confidence just isn't there.
when little boys were being told, like, yeah, go run and fight in the grass and be aggressive, little girls were taught, like, oh no, be quiet, look pretty, go play with your dolls. So, of course, it has an effect as we grow older. But back on topic. Well, I mean, it's on topic. It is really a leader.
No, it is. I mean, that's all about enabling. I was thinking about that when I was, enabling others to act, specifically as a woman, that we should be enabling each other, but we should just be enabling each other as humans. But I think that happens a lot. Women, unfortunately, don't want to see. It's not that they don't want to see another woman succeed, but I definitely see it more in women that they're a little catty about certain things.
Yeah. I know.
We should be more supportive, as difficult as it can be for us to move ahead.
Mm-hmm.
That we should be more supportive of one another.
Absolutely. Women tearing other women down is something that it makes me so sad. And I think a lot of the reason why that happens is because we're so ingrained, like, competition between, like, women to be a certain way, to have certain standards, and to appear in a certain way that we tear women who appear not to be within those societal limits. We tear them down. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to go on? I'm sorry, his name's George or David? I'm having
it. It was George.
All right. Do you want to go to the Likert scale, George?
Sure.
Just maybe the standouts and the
yeah. So I mean, it does. Obviously, you look at these questions and they're very similar to what we had going on above. They keep the door open for questions and concerns. Like I said, he always has an open door policy. I'll call him after hours if I have questions. I've never felt like I couldn't go and ask him. And I would say if I ever did, it was more about he was so overwhelmed that I didn't feel like me asking him a question was something he absolutely had to have. Like I didn't need that answer from him. I could get it from somebody else. So why put more on his plate when he already had enough, kind of thing. I did talk about how he receives constructive feedback willingly, although he doesn't ask for it. He does take it, and he might joke around and tell you something in return, but he does take it honestly and take it to heart. He's going to try to make it better, and make it a better workplace for him and the people that are working with him.
That's good. That's really good. I just love that taking constructive criticism thing. I'm jealous.
Yeah. That's not easy. None of us want to have any kind of criticism. No. There's nothing worse than when you mess up, and I hate having to go back and admit that I completely screwed up something. But I do it because I know it's what should be done.
It's pride.
And we all make mistakes, but you're just kicking your own butt as you're walking out there to tell them, yeah, I messed this up.
See, professionally, I feel like it's way easier for me because I've learned so much that if you make a mistake and if you report it and if you just mention it right away, then it is less. It is much smaller.
Oh, absolutely.
To hide it and cover it up. Working in compliance, especially if I make a mistake, I need to be like, I made a mistake. Look at me over here. I made a mistake. Gotta get help right now. Gotta get 3 other business units to do stuff for me. But personally, it is way harder.
Yeah, that's way harder.
That you made a mistake. It is way harder.
You just sit there. I go, I know I'm wrong, but I ain't saying it to
him. No. Yeah, I think that's the mark of if we were to grade our partners on the Likert scale. I think the higher that they would score, the more easy it is for us to admit mistakes. You know what I mean? Like the same goes for my supervisor. Hey, hi. Are you okay?
You're not breathing. I have to run up the steps.
Your life is in shambles per usual.
Oh no. It's been quite a day for all of us. I applaud us for being here right now.
Exactly.
Doing a good job. But it goes back to the accepting criticism. Our supervisors, even our partners, need to also accept criticism.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier for us to accept criticism if they do too. But proceed. So Emily, Crystal is reviewing one of her supervisors, Crystal, or just the leader within the organization?
He's a coworker, but yeah, he's a higher up. So, but he's not like a direct supervisor.
Well, she is on the Likert scale portion, so it's the like 1 through a humongous amount, 24, 27.
Okay.
It's the 360 degree survey monkey questions.
So looking at this, I was, what kind of jumped out at me here is communicates important information about our organization to the right external people. Or the one above it, communicates important information about our team to the right people in our larger organization. So he has no problem communicating, but I do feel like the higher ups, and one of the reasons why he recently stepped down and is no longer the operations manager, they never respected him 100%. So he would take our concerns to them, but nothing would get done about it. They kind of pushed it aside or said, you don't know how to handle the people. They gave him excuses as to why things weren't changing. So that one is a tough one because I'm just going based on what he tells me. Like, he's closed the door and said, look, I had a conversation with the boss about this, and this, and I've seen that nothing's changed. And I also know the boss, and I know what it takes to get things changed, and it's like an act of God. So I definitely believe that George isn't lying to me on that. So I would say that, he tries to, but I think there was also a point where he kind of got fed up with them. One of the reasons why he stepped down. And he stopped telling them things. Like, he got tired of not being listened to. So he decided, I'm just not going to tell you about it anymore. Why am I going to keep telling you about something that you're doing nothing about? Why am I, wasting my hot air for nothing? It's just silly. So that is a downfall in him. He's done that previously as well, where he's kind of shut down on them. But I also understand where it's coming from, because they want you at 125% doing this, doing that. You're here 7 to 7 every day, if not longer, taking calls on weekends, handling things after hours. And yet, you ask for lunch for the team and you can't get it. You know what I mean? It's little things like that to bigger things, to not being able to buy the inventory, to being, to saying, hey, we can't do this job. We don't have the equipment for it. And then getting yelled at by everyone that, well, everybody else would make this happen. Well, I can't make it happen with something I don't have. So, and that is one of his downfalls, is he does just shut down. Like, you push him down enough and he'll just, okay, and just stop talking to you.
I'm so excited that you just started talking about that, because it relates directly to a quote that I pulled for our meeting.
Oh.
Yes. Or not for our meeting, for like the project things we need to submit. So there's nothing more disempowering than to have lots of responsibility for doing something, but nothing to do with it. So you're totally disempowered when you have the responsibility of taking care of your team, but you have no power to enforce it. So that would make sense, like a lot of sense to me, that George would have stepped down if he was consistently not given the resources he needed.
Yeah, absolutely. The resources were not coming in, and it's funny because there's several of our outside locations in Georgia and Texas have commented about him stepping down and how unhappy, how sad they are. They're upset, and I go, if you saw him every day and how happy he is, like I've worked with George for 15 years. I've been with this company, so we've kind of grown up together, and if you and how he is the old George that he hasn't been for the last 5 years that he's been in this position, you wouldn't be upset. You'd let it slide. You'd be totally understanding that this man has gone back to being, himself and able to joke around with people. It used to be you walk into his office and you you could be open and honest with him, but joking around wasn't going to happen because he just didn't have the time. He was stressed and it wasn't worth it. So you could definitely see the differences. But yeah, you can't tell people, oh, you're in charge, but they're not really in charge. They're not. You give them nothing to go off of, or to make things happen. It's a big change.
Yeah, definitely. It reminds me of a couple years ago, before our organization was acquired. We worked for a smaller organization, and they didn't pay the best, and they're a little shady in some ways. And I started working as a customer service representative. So I was just answering phones. I was basically in a call center. And I worked my way up a little bit, and they offered me a new position. And when they offered me the new position, it was a lateral position, they called it. Have you guys ever run into that?
I mean, I know what it is, but I haven't experienced it.
Yeah. So it's like I'm doing more and I have more responsibility, but I'm not being compensated for it. Yeah. So it's sort of like that. Like you have this new responsibility, you're trying to handle it, but you're not given the resources. Or you have your new responsibility, you're trying to handle it, but you're not given the support or the money that you're worth.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard.
My everyday.
Talking about that, were you given the resources to handle the exploded water?
Okay, here's my thing. I have the resources, yes, if I'm allowed to use them. Stop. So if he has separation anxiety and the other two just left, so he's like, oh my god, mom. Stop it. Winston, seriously.
I have
okay, so anyways. Water heater, yes. Okay. So my store manager was there when it happened, right? And so the water guy came in, was there forever. Then they say, okay, stop. You're going to need a new water heater. So then I'm like, okay, so we don't have hot water, basically was the problem, because obviously need the new hot water heater. So then in any case, that's like a health code thing. You're supposed to shut down and you're supposed to like whatever. We're not shut down. And she left like at 1:00. So from 1:00 to like my manager came in and he said, the first thing he said to me, he's like, why are we open? And I'm like, I can't close the store. That's not, like, I don't have that ability. So then he said, well, does Kelly know? I said, yeah, she knew when she left, like, and I already texted her and told her, like, what was going on. And the guy who's here fixing the heater said that he already talked to her too. So she already knows we don't have hot water. She knows that we don't have like, and he was like, well, this is crazy. Why are we open? So he literally gets out his phone and he dials her up and he said, why are we open? We don't have hot water. Like, we can't like clean dishes. We can't wash our hands. We can't like, that's nothing is sanitary. So then she I don't know what she told him, but she basically told him that if she told our district manager, she doesn't think our district manager would allow us to close. And I'm like, so you didn't even tell him? Like, you didn't? So he hangs up on her and then calls our district manager and says the thing. And then he was not even on the phone 3 minutes. And the district manager was like, oh yeah, close. And so then I'm like, so then today when one of our other managers came in who wasn't there yesterday, he was like, yeah, I heard you didn't have, the hot water broke. You didn't have hot water, this, that, the other. He said, I'm surprised you didn't close the store. Okay. I'm like, Nick, I'm going to hit you first of all. Second of all, again, I can't close the store. It's not my call. And like, our manager knew about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, she should have been the one to make the call. She should have been the one. It's not my responsibility to reach out to our district manager and tell them, like what's going on. Like, that's your job as a store manager, to be in charge of your store. Hello? Yeah. It was just a mess, like an absolute mess. And everything was fixed overnight. And so I came in and everything was fine today. But like also with her, like as a manager, so we run the store when she's not there. I can't make closing calls, obviously. That's not me. But like if one of my other partners like is late, or if they just don't show up, or if something happens on the shift, every other store I've been in has the ability to like write them up or give them disciplinary action. Not at my current store. She will not let you do it. You have to document what they did, but she's the one that has to discipline, but then she never disciplines. And I'm like, hello, like I can do it. You just won't let us. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, and then she turns around and doesn't discipline them. So then the person keeps doing what they've been doing because they're not getting in trouble for it. I'm like, why do you do this?
Another great example of having lots of responsibility, but nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do.
I think Emily, you should review this manager using using the 360-degree questions.
She's stressing me out, and I haven't even been in this location for a month yet, and I'm already like, how are you functioning? How did you get to where you are at? I don't understand it. Literally, don't understand. But,
oh, yeah. Well, I will finish off the review of my supervisor with the SurveyMonkey questions. And I'm just going to name off a couple that stood out to me. I don't want to go down the whole thing with you guys. But as far as keeps the door open for questions and concerns, I feel like that rarely happens just because of how absent she is. She's not absent from the work environment, but part of her position is basically advocating for our organization within regulatory means. So she's going out to departments of insurance, she's talking to testing providers, she's very active socially. So it's hard to pin her down sometimes. So I wouldn't say that there's necessarily an open door understanding between us. I'm lucky though, because we do have a weekly one-on-one. We talk for 15, 30 minutes, whatever we need. So that kind of opens it up a little bit. We don't really have a lot of meetings. So I would say, again, rarely on conducts effective meetings, just because it doesn't really happen. But she does communicate pretty well with our individual team members and the members of our team. I would say she often does do that. It's not an open door policy like we would wish it to be, but she does proactively email, call us if there is something that we desperately need to know to do our jobs. So she doesn't keep us in the dark if we need to know something. I would say she's very willing to speak up and take a stand for what's right. So I would say she's always willing to do that. She has very strong opinions, like Crystal and I were talking about a little earlier. And a lot of those opinions, they kind of move toward being the most ethical or moral decision we can make as an organization. And sales or product might want to be like, oh, let's make it easier for our customers because we'll sell more. Or she's like, no, this is for education. They need to learn. So to maintain the quality of our material, we can't make it easier on them. So she does take a stand in that way. And I'd say something that stood out like way to me on this scale is the writing and speaking effectively and articulately. This woman can speak before a crowd like the president of the United States, not this one, but you'd think she was a politician. Like, she can seriously handle a crowd. She can make her business known. I look up to her so much for that. When we attend conferences, she walks down the hall and people just know her name, and she's just so bubbly and charismatic. So she really does, if I were to put her in a leadership style, it would be charismatic leadership. So she's also very laissez-faire. I don't know if you guys remember that one, but she's like, do what you will, do your job. If something goes wrong, come to me. But I would say she doesn't really create an atmosphere of team cooperation. So I would put that under rarely, because we're such a co-located team. Like, she works in California. My coworker and I work in Scottsdale. We're very kind of spread out. And I don't feel like there are really moves that we're made to feel like a team. So I wouldn't say that our overarching team feels like there's an atmosphere of collaboration.
You've said before that you guys really work individually.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit on the edge of things because it's a content team, so content development. We have Cindy at the top, and then myself and Svetlana are her direct reports. I'm a compliance specialist, and Svetlana is a content manager. And then underneath Svetlana, she has like a bunch of content associates. So we're all one team, right? But I'm on the edge over here, and right. They're all the way over here.
So you're not dealing with all of them on a regular basis?
No, not at all. I share an office with one of them. he's over there, but we don't work together. Yeah. So it's sometimes there's like an annual meeting. Last year we had it, and that was nice. It was nice, and they do try to do something called a lunch and learn, where we meet once monthly and we kind of teach the team what we've learned. So if I attend a conference, I'll make a PowerPoint presentation and present it to our group. But that doesn't happen on a consistent basis. And I feel like that consistency is required to be effective in that way.
Yeah.
Emily, do you want to do the like A through K questions for whoever you chose to review coworker-wise? Crystal and I didn't go through each. We just sort of noted maybe like the top 3 and the bottom 3 almost, and just spoke about their general nature.
All right. I think all right, A through K. Here we go. So my person is gonna be Kelly. Just because she's our store manager. So the way that it is set up is there's one store manager who's Kelly, she runs us all. And then we just actually added one to our team this week. So now there's 6 leads or like shifts. They call them shift managers or whatever. Which is actually a lot for a store, especially a store of our size. We're very small. I don't know why we have 6 managers. But it's really, and then underneath the 6 managers, there's the rest of the team. We're all equal on the same level. So the underneath, the bottom report to us 6 when we're there and we're in charge and we're running things. And then usually the 6 of us will take it to well, not all 6 at the same time, but we'll take it to Kelly. And then she has interaction with them too, but for the most part, first of all, she's never there. Of any store manager and of any store I've ever been at, she is there the least amount of time and she is on the floor the least amount of time, which I find very strange. But so that's kind of like how the system setup works. Okay, so going through A through K. Let's see what I can forget. I would say, okay, first and foremost, A sets a personal example of what he or she expects. I would say once in a while, only because, like I said, she's hardly ever on the floor. And when she is on the floor, it's like 9 a.m. rolls around, which is what they consider our peak time, because the early morning coffee drinkers, the people on their way to work, our commuters, the people going to school in the school year, they're usually done by 9 o'clock because that's when work starts, that's when school starts. So after 9 o'clock, when peak is over, she is literally off the floor. Like it's 9:01 and she says, okay, I have to go. Or she says, okay, I got stuff to do. And also she does a lot of admin work, which again is more than any manager I've ever seen do admin work. I'm like, okay, payroll's once a week. So what else do you do? When you make a schedule once a week and you do that 3 weeks out, what else do you do? I don't understand, because the other morning manager does the inventory orders. So how much admin do you have to be doing, honestly? Because it's every day. I'm like, so I don't think she sets a very good example for us as shifts, because I noticed even if she's working in the morning, she's not the one in charge. So if I'm working or if Mariah, the other morning girl, is working, we are the ones in charge, and she just kind of acts like she's another person, just part of our floor set. And I noticed the other day when there was a customer concern, she saw the customer concern happening. She saw the person complaining. She saw the problem. And instead of stepping in like us as shifts are supposed to do, she just kind of looked the other way and just kind of stood there and let the situation play out. And I'm like, your name is on the door. And I've always taken the aspect of when there's a customer issue, I would rather you yell at me than you yell at one of my people. That's always been my thing. I don't want any of my people to deal with yelling. Because you guys, you shouldn't have to, that's what I get paid for, is I get paid to take the blame for things and to handle things. So let me do it. Don't get yelled at, because I don't like people's feelings being hurt, and I don't like that. So I don't think that she showed a very good example of stepping up for your team and handling things. So again, your name is on the door. That's when they call back or when they complain to JC or district manager, you're the store manager. That's your name. That's going to look bad on you. And I think that was something that you should have handled, instead of being I'm just gonna stand here and watch, to be honest.
When she's on the floor, is she helping?
She the way the setup is she answers drive-through.
Okay.
Because she wants to push it and she wants to make sure it's fast. So she's like not making drinks. She's not like stocking the floor. She's not, I mean, she deals with the customers because she has to answer the headset and stuff, but she's not like, compared to the other store managers I've had who are like literally everywhere, she's very like subpar, I guess, to all the others. And she's probably been with the company about the same time I was. I got hired at the end of April, and I think she said she was hired at the beginning of April back in 2013. So we are like the same. We've been with the company just as long, so we know the same things, except for she's had the store manager training as to why I haven't gone that route because I don't want to. No thanks. Okay, so let's see. Praises people for a job well done. I have not seen her say anything to anyone of that quality. Not, mind you, she's not like yelling at people. She's not saying you're doing terrible, but she's also not like being like, oh, you did really good today, or I'm proud of the work you did today, or thanks for going above and beyond. I've never seen her comment either way, ever. I mean, like I said, I've only been there a month, but but of what I've seen with her in the interactions, like this is what I've, so yes.
Leader, right?
I'm sorry, what?
She doesn't seem to be a very effective leader.
Yeah, she's not, and that's why I said it. Like I look and I'm like, how did you get here? Like, I don't know. So praises people for a job well done. I would say very rare. Almost, well, actually, I'm going to say almost never. To be honest, almost never. Ask for feedback. No, never. On how her actions affect other people's performance. No, no, never. That's like a zero. Like literally never. Not almost never. It's literally never.
Yeah. Now you've been there. What? You're going on 3 weeks? 4 weeks? What week are we in?
Yes. This what today's the 2nd. So the 30th was rounded out my 1 month.
Okay. And since you've been there a month now, has she sat down and spoken to you, like feedback on your thoughts and coming from another branch or anything like that?
Probably like the first week, she asked me, how have you been liking things? Like, how's things working out? And I was like, oh, it's like my 3rd day. So like, I'm still like getting used to it. But since that conversation, no. And there's been times where I'll go up to her and I'll say, hey, I think that we should really do this. That's my thing though, is like, when I suggest us changing something, she's all for it. She said, whatever you think's going to make it easier. But so she's open to change, but it's also somebody else has to be making the changes. She's not making the changes.
She's not implementing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, okay, we'll do that. Or we can do that. And then she'll like wait for you to like do it. Which I'm like, okay, fine. Or she'll come up with an excuse and she'll say like, JC or district manager, well, JC wants it this way, or JC wants it that way, to the point where I'm like, okay, let me have a sit down with JC, because apparently you're not running anything here. You're just a middle person, to be honest. So she just, oh my goodness. Okay, so then, but like I said, she's not super terrible. Like, she is very nice. She does her schedules on time. I've never had a problem so far with her payroll, which sounds weird, but my other manager before her, I had a problem with payroll almost every time. It was weird. So
maybe that's
that was
admin work.
maybe that's what she spends all her time doing. But it's really funny too. So like, my old store manager would open at 4 o'clock in the morning and then be there to 6 o'clock at night. Mind you, she was on the floor all the time, but most of the time she was there. And there was never a time in the 3 years I worked at that store that she was not there 90% of the day. So the fact that it gets to be like 9 o'clock and then she leaves, or like she's off the floor and then she leaves by like 12. I understand that your salary, okay, and you get paid the same no matter how much time you're there, but like, earn your salary, okay?
That's the connotation of salary, is that you are working a minimum of 40 hours a week and you can work more. Like, the salary doesn't mean like work less than 40. It means the organization wants you to work more.
Or like, we'll be out of something, okay? And I'll say like things like, so like, I guess the water in Chicago is hard. I don't know. So we need like salt tablets or like some kind of like water softener. So we're like out. So I say like, I've never handled this before because I'm new. And I'm like, so is this like a we run to like Lowe's, like hardware store and we get something? Or is this like a we got to get it from another store? And she's like, well, you can check another store. Why are you not checking another store? How long have you been out? I'm like, all right, Kelly. All right, I got it. I got it. Like, it's that kind of like, I'm like, drives me nuts. Drives me absolutely nuts.
Well, if you want to note some of the SurveyMonkey questions down the line, we have like 12 more minutes.
Yes. I'll try to find some nice things. Okay, so she does keep the door open for questions and concerns. I've never felt like I couldn't go to her with something. I don't think she's very effective at doing it, but she at least listens and she at least acknowledges that I want to do something, and you know, she listens to my suggestions, so that's a plus. And I've never had anybody say that they felt that they couldn't talk to her, like with my team, you know, because my team obviously talks about it, and us as other managers talk about it. So that's a plus. So I will say that nearly always, I would say for that one. Conducts or contributes to effective meetings. Actually, that's, well, I'm going to say never because I've heard that they don't even have meetings. So we're going to skip that one. We're looking for positive. I will say she does communicate important information effectively. So she'll, line of communication comes down to the 6 of us, and the 6 of us then go down. But she prints a lot of like, that's what I guess what she does during admin time. She prints a lot of admin stuff. So like if we're, you know, if the money isn't adding up somewhere, she'll highlight that. Or if we have training that we have to do, she'll print out that and she'll highlight it and say like, this is who needs to be doing what. And she'll let like us know like, hey, before you leave today, make sure these 3 people do their training. Or one of our girls got into a car accident a couple days ago and she has a doctor's note and needs to take a break every class. So we're making sure that she takes her breaks and that she's, you know, well taken care of. So things like that, she does communicate very well. In terms of like when new product launches or when we have new things, that I don't think is communicated as effectively. It's really just like she prints something out and she's like, okay, make sure everybody learns this. And then calls it a day, to which I'm like, okay, well, okay. We'll get it done. We'll handle it. I really feel like collectively this, well, Colin's new. He's still in his first week. So the 5 of us collectively have run the store in the last month between the 5 of us versus Kelly. And, you know, because my old manager never let us like do anything ever. Like she was always handling it. She would always answer the phone. She would always do the order. She would always like, so she worked over 40 hours a week, like literally over 40. But she also was not good at like, what's what I'm looking for? She was not good at delegating. There we go. Yes, delegating tasks. And she wanted to do, Kelly on the other hand is like, everyone do my stuff. Handle it yourself. But like I said, like you can give us, you tell me to handle it and you tell me to run my things at the same time. I can't discipline. You know, I can't make certain calls. Like I knew right away when she told me we didn't have hot water. I'm like, okay, this happened in my other store and we had to close. But again, what am I supposed to do? Say, hey, shouldn't we close? Or what am I supposed to do? Like say, like, hey, don't you think you should call JC? Or like, I'm still new. So like if I was my old store manager, I most definitely would be like, you need to call him. But like I'm still new and I don't want to be like, you know, as to where the night guy, he came in and he was like, you know, doing all the stuff. But he can do that. He's been there a long time. I'm still new. I'm not trying to say anybody off.
Boundaries as a new person.
Hey, I'm not trying to, okay? My schedule has been 9 to 5, weekends off. Okay, so like I'm not trying to get rid of that. Really not. So, what was the other one I saw that I really liked? Oh no, not really anything positive anymore. Oh wait,
like
there's a whole, okay.
A lot of opportunity for growth.
She does, and that's my thing. So when she called me and when I first transferred, she told me she took the store over from a bad spot. To which I'm like, when I got there and now that I see things, I'm like, how much worse could it get? I don't even want to know.
Oh my gosh.
So she said they've improved on a lot of things. There's been a high turnover. We replaced half the staff. And I just don't know. She tells me all the time she's tired. She told me that yesterday. She said, I'm just tired. And I'm like, she's taking a vacation next week. And I hope this is like a reset vacation. She's going with her husband and her 2 kids. They're going to Disney. So I hope that this really resets everything.
She's not coming back relaxed.
She's, but then she made a comment the other day when I said something, or one of the girls joked and she said, Emily's going to take your job. And she's like, that's okay. I'm only doing this because I'm poor. And I was like, I don't want your job. First of all. Second of all, like, So, and like I said, and there's probably, I'm sure, a lot of behind the scenes. I don't know our district manager, JC, very well, so I can't really say, like, you know, it's very possible he's crazy and he wants, like, all this stuff done and, like, we have to do things a certain way. But also in the old area that I came from, we used to have what they called town halls, which is where all, like, the shift managers of the district got together and we talked about what was working in our store, wasn't working in our store, like, how we felt about things. And then they kind of clarified for things like, yes, you might see your manager do this, but that's because we gave them this direction and then they're trying to implement this in the store. So, like, you see it as, like, yeah, they're doing things at like 4 o'clock in the morning, but they're really trying to get it done before 7 when we start to pick up our pace. Yes, it's early, and yes, we don't have to turn our orders until 11, but the earlier you get them done, you know, like, then it's out of the way, it's done, and you're not rushing between 10 and 11 to get it done in case your pop is late, which again makes sense. And I think if we had that kind of thing in our current area, like, we could talk to JC and we could understand where he's coming from and, like, why the store managers do what they do. But I met him one time a couple days ago, actually. It was very busy. There was only 3 people on our floor because that's just what she scheduled me, and it was lunchtime. And he came in and he kind of looked around and he looked around again. And he was like, I don't think I've met you. And I said, no. He said, I'm JC. And I said, I'm Emily. And he's like, oh yeah, we emailed back and forth when I transferred. And he just kind of, like, looked at me and he's like, so is it always like this? And I was like, yeah, it's always like this. I said, it's always the afternoon. I always only have 3 people. We're always running around with our head cut off. And he was like, are you missing somebody? And I was like, no, here is my, like, little sheet that says, hey, like, this is who's scheduled and when for the whole week. Look at it. Literally look at it. Every single day this week, I've had 3 people in the afternoon. That's just what it is. And he's like, he must have said, I'm going to talk to Kelly like 6 times. He said, I'm going to talk to Kelly. I'm going to talk to Kelly. And I'm like, okay, talk to Kelly. I'll see change when it happens. Like today, there was like a discount day where it was Frappuccinos, and guess how many people I had? 3. So he didn't talk to Kelly very effectively, I feel, or she didn't listen, one of the 2.
Oh,
So
no.
we'll see. Like I said, there's a lot of, like, the kid Colin that he just transferred. He's here this week. He's from a different store in the same district. So he's really, I think, an important tool because he'll be able to come from a different store who was also managed by JC, and he'll be able to say, like, yes, that was the same thing in our store, or like, no, like, what? You're doing what? So I think as he kind of fits into things and he finds his voice, because he's still very quiet, I think he'll be like, yes, like, yeah, no, we did that too. Or he'll be like, no. So, and like I said, I don't know, again, above JC, we have a regional who handles like 6 or 7 district managers. And the store next door to us, like literally 2 miles down the road, has a different district manager. And who's actually the guy that hired me when I first started. So I was thinking about reaching out to him and being like, what do you do here? What do you do here? Like, is it just up to our district managers, or are you getting directions from regional? You know, like, yeah, where are we at on the scheme of things? It's very stressful.
Sounds like it. I'm sorry to get to deal with that.
Oh goodness, I was ready to go. It was like 4:59. I said, bye, I have to go. I must go. I'm ready. I said, after yesterday, the chaos, I was like, after the water heater, I had one of my little, my plastic things on top of my espresso machine was smoking, and a wire broke and it was like burning things. There was a fire in my oven. I'm like, okay, today is not it. It's not my day.
Well,
I have to go home.
We are almost out for the hour. I'm sorry, I don't have too much extra time today. But do we want to close out with reviewing each other, or would you rather go to part B on the customer service survey questions? And are you guys comfortable with submitting sort of a little bit of a wonky video this week?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. You know, on all honesty, for me, that reviewing you guys was really tough because I feel like we do communicate really well, and everybody plays their part, and it seems like everybody's jumped in and voiced their opinion or ideas. Like, none of us have seemed to hold back when it comes to working together as a group. And the ones that I had a hard time, you know, commenting on were ones that just, they didn't apply to anything that we've kind of had to go through yet. So I was a little worried about talking about that because I was like, well, what are we gonna say? We love each other.
What if we just on the like A through K noted per person, maybe like 2 strings? Do you think that'd work? That kind of fit into it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Emily, I definitely note in you that you give us a lot of appreciation and support for what we do. I know you were like texting a couple assignments away, like, thanks so much, guys, you're awesome. And I appreciated that. So I guess that's K and B of like doing a really good job at that. And I was trying to, maybe it's not an A through K, but there's one lower that said, darn it. It's basically standing up for your values. And I feel like you really, really stand up for your own values, even from like the first meeting that we had. And you were just very straightforward of saying, like, this is how I believe and this is what I do. And even now in this meeting, you were very like, I saw you living by your values and just the way you thought about the store situation and stuff like that.
Well, thanks.
So, you're welcome. Crystal, give me a sec. Well, I think you are so good at actively listening. And I don't know if it's exactly on there, but I guess it says actively listening to diverse points of view. But something that I've seen a strength in you is just like you listen to every single word that we talk about, and you always have something to say, and that I really appreciate.
Thank you.
And I think you set a personal example in that way, because I know that when I feel like you listen to me, I'm that more likely to listen more actively to you.
Yeah. No, you guys have both been really good at listening. That's been I think that's what makes it a very interesting thing when we have a discussion, because you can tell, because we'll be telling a story and then, as soon as there's a break, somebody has something to say. Oh yeah, well yeah, I've seen that, or you'll ask a question. So that's been a good part of making this team work and how well we've done together. I think is because we've all been really good at being listeners when it comes to that. Kimberly, as far as you go, when I was looking at it, I think you set a great personal example. You jumped in, you're ready to take the challenge of making sure that we get our meetings done and following up and doing the recordings for us. So I really appreciate that. And you were, when we did that memo, and I, kind of just did a preamble of things, and you kind of jumped in and just, you weren't afraid to just go with it and make it happen. So I really appreciate that. You jumping in and just handling things and making it, easy to be a part of the team and work with you.
Thank you, Crystal.
Emily, you make me laugh.
Oh, good. I hope.
No, I love it. So, no, I have to say kind of what Kimberly said was, you're very thankful and grateful and praise people. Yeah, like those text messages, and your honesty. I know that I don't think that's anywhere on here, but that honesty is, for me, is so huge, because so many people don't speak exactly what's on their mind, or when they do, it's just constantly negative stuff. Mm-hmm. Which is, to me, that's no different than not speaking honestly. Right. Like I know people, my sister is kind of like that. She's very opinionated but I don't necessarily agree with everything she says. And she's like, well, I'm just being honest. I'm like, well, sometimes being honest and being, nice, or whatever you want to call it, are two different things. So I really do appreciate that, working with you. You two have been a great team to deal with every week. I've actually looked forward to our meetings every week.
I know, I enjoy them. I like them.
I do too. It's weird.
I know. It's weird. No, it is. When we've gone so long, for the most part, most of my classes have been without any sort of meetings. And I think this is only my second or third class where we had to meet in some way. But this one has just been like, I feel like from that first meeting has been just a sync. We were all able to work together and talk and not be worried about what we were saying.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Same. For mine, I said that, Crystal, I think that you listen very well. You've always been able to like jump right in with questions, and they're not just like, questions. They're like the ones that really like you. I know that you've thought about things, and then when you phrase your questions to us, that really like digs deeper. And so I really appreciate that, because active listening for me is very hard. Relating things, like I said, relating things back to material is very hard for me. And so like the fact that you can do it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous, because I don't have that skill whatsoever. So I really, really like that about you. And I also really like that your openness to share things. You just have this very just warm hug personality is the best way that I can describe it. And every time that we get on these meetings, I'm like, oh my God, I just love her. Because you seem very like, you're a very more positive person, you know, like I very, I don't think I've even seen you ever do it, but like say, when you say negative things, you still have like that positive tone to you, you know, like you're still looking on the bright side of things, and you're always looking for the way that things can improve or the positive side of it. And like, that's refreshing too. Cause like you said, people who literally complain all the time, and you're like, are you really doing that right now? So I really like that about your personality. And I really think that that has helped our team positivity.
Yeah, I gotta move away from the negativity.
Honestly. And then for my friend Kimberly, so there was a lot that I found for you. And just because I'm like, oh, that one's good. Oh, wait, that one's good. Oh, wait, no, that one's good.
No, this one.
No, this one. It's this one. So I think that you exchange information and offer information freely and very well. Because there's times like when I don't understand things, or like I've noticed that you pipe in and say, oh, this related to our text this way. Or you'll say, oh, but like, remember when we read this? And I'm like, how does she do that?
Yeah, I am amazed by that. You are able to reference back. I'm surprised you're not pulling up pages. Oh yeah, remember on page 25 in chapter 1 when we read this? No,
I know. I'm like, wait, let me look it up. Yeah. Like, oh my, wait.
I just have the book like right in front of me here.
Yeah, she's just
dual screen. She's like, and then. Yes, and I said the conducts and contributes to effective meetings, because you've always been the one to say, okay, guys, like, what are we doing this week? Here's what we got going on. Here's the setup. Let me record it. You've been very good at like keeping us all in track. Like, come on, children. This is what we're doing. And so I really appreciate that too, because that's really been honestly a lifesaver. I'm like, oh yeah, she's got it. So I appreciate that too.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I just love our team so much, and I'm sad that we have like a week left.
Me too.
But no, this has been a great experience. I'm going to end the broadcast because I have to run.
Yep.
Are you guys good to go?
Oh, good to go, and hopefully the week goes better for everybody.
Yeah, I hope your day's better.
Okay. Bye, guys. Thank you.
All right. Bye.